Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Healing with Excellence podcast. This is your holistic health expert, Kimberly Miller, and I'm with a very special guest today, Elaine Vergara. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you for
and
having me.
I'm grateful to have you. Now, part of this podcast is also being recorded for our Real Level Up group and those of you that are on the 100-day challenge to become your best self. We talked a little bit in Real Level Up about looking for ways for passive income, but I found that it's not just about making money. It's also about how do you budget and place your money to preserve it or to learn how to save, because we could make money constantly, but if it's constantly going out, you're still not going to feel stable. And what I find as a holistic health expert, some of my clients, what's causing their health issues is either their reliance on money, their fear about not having money, their inability to save or place the money correctly to where they feel trapped in a toxic career or a toxic relationship. And so I believe that part of being well is having financial freedom or understanding more about your money so that you're not causing so much pressure. Now, everybody that's listening to this podcast is going to be in a different place with money. Some individuals are living as if God always provides and it's just coming in and coming out, which is okay too, as long as they can spiritually and mentally handle it. Other individuals are living paycheck to paycheck. Some are living in constant fear of not having enough money, even if they have a lot of money in savings or in their 401k. So we're all coming from a different perspective. This podcast will resonate with some of you. Some of us won't be ready to hear the message yet, because I know if you told me about budgeting 10 years ago, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'll budget when I'm dead. But I know that you could do all kinds of amazing things, but if you don't know how to work with money or respect money, it's not going to work out to you feeling that financial freedom. And some of you on this call are very successful entrepreneurs that you just know how to create money and you just don't care if you save it. So that's okay too. Whatever, however you want to operate, but I believe this call is going to help a lot of people. So now, Elaine, when you were younger, like in your early 20s, did you start off budgeting? Did you know anything about budgeting?
No, in my 20s, no. I got paid, and I did make sure that I had a car loan, so I did make sure my car payment was made, and then the rest I just didn't care about. It was there. I went shopping. I did whatever I wanted to do. So in my early 20s, I was not married, still living at home. So I didn't have a lot of responsibilities in terms of living expenses other than a car payment and insurance, of course, to go with the car
Mm-hmm.
payment. So yeah, no, it didn't, budgeting didn't really, and worrying about having enough money at the end of my paycheck didn't really hit me until probably I was in my 40s and 50s and started thinking about retirement, and
Mm-hmm.
concerned and worrying that I wasn't going to have enough money to retire on. And so that is probably, it was 2009 is when I really got serious about, how to handle my money so that there was some later on, you know.
Okay, yeah, so almost 20 years now that you've been incorporating these steps. So, and I believe the budgeting method you learned about was Dave Ramsey's method, right?
Correct, correct. I had heard about a couple of other different methods, but Dave Ramsey resonated with me. He was, he was the in thing back in 2009. I mean, he still is,
Mhm.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
he had a good message that really hit home. And one of his favorite sayings for me is, "Debt is normal. Be weird." And so
Yeah.
I was like, I guess I can be weird, but you know, debt is really my normalcy right then. And I mean, I had so
Mhm.
much debt back then, and everybody has debt. I it's not new to anybody. Unfortunately, we live in a
Mhm.
debt-ridden society, so
Mhm.
it is weird to be normal and not have debt. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
It's so funny when you say be weird. That's the whole story of my life. My girls are like, "Why are we the weird ones, Bob?" I'm like, because weird helps us excel. Weird has helped me be healthy. Weird has helped me help have children naturally. it's the norm right now to feel sick or unhealthy, or like you said, drowning in debt and not feeling like we can get our way out of it. And so
Right.
we're trying to be abnormal. We're trying to be opposite of the statistics, especially in the United States. This is not common everywhere, but it's becoming common everywhere. So let's talk about that just a little bit. I know a little bit of Dave Ramsey's method. Can you give me the gist of what the goal is, or what you try to achieve monthly when it comes to budgeting that helps you get out of your debt? So do you remember like the first step that you took to
Right.
start getting out of debt, and what are you
Right.
supposed to do to start setting up for managing your money to take
Well,
control?
his first step is actually to save a emergency fund,
Okay.
because emergencies are going to happen. And he likes to say emergency is not, oh my goodness, I need pizza tonight. No, that's not an
Right, right,
emergency.
right.
And so an emergency fund is for a true emergency. Something
Okay.
breaks down on your car, and yes, that's
Mhm.
expensive, but um, his bottom line emergency fund was to have $1,000 put aside that
Mhm.
was earmarked just for that and nothing else. And to
Mhm.
me, at that stage of the game, I was like, $1,000? I don't know where that's going to come from. But
Mhm.
as I got into looking at how he structured, you structured your budget, how you structured your money, and
Mhm.
getting paid and paying the paying down to zero every month.
Mhm.
So you
Mhm.
knew where every single penny went. That was so important
Mhm.
in being able to save that $1,000. And and I was like, I don't even know how I'm gonna pay down to $0 every month when I have so much debt. At that point, I had, house payment. We had 2 car loans. We had credit card debt. We had gas card. I mean, you name it, we had
Mhm.
it. And it just didn't seem like I was going to ever get out of that debt. But
Mhm.
I did start, even if it was $5 a week or payday that went into
Mhm.
the emergency fund. It did add up quickly. And then I started looking at ways that I could curtail spending. Like, oh
Mhm.
my, okay, do
Yeah.
I really need to stop and buy that coffee? Do I really need to eat out for lunch? No, I have leftovers. I will take those for lunch. So
Mhm.
that's what I did. And as I did those little steps in the beginning, it became easier and easier. The other most important step that I remember, of course, I don't have it in front of me now because I did it so long ago, but
Right.
um, the other step was your debt snowball. Um,
Mm.
and his suggestion was a little out of what I'd heard other, you know, um, programs
Coaches.
do,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that was you start with the debt that is the lowest amount. Other programs started with the lowest interest rate or the highest.
Mm.
I was like, okay, I feel better. And his theory was if you owed $200 on one credit card and 1,000 on another, if you paid that $200 credit card off, what a good feeling that is to know
Yes.
that that's gone.
Exactly.
So that's how I began structuring. Whatever the lowest was, I paid it off as much as I could, as quick as I could. It wasn't
Mhm.
quick, believe you me. It was like I felt like I was working at a snail's pace.
Mhm.
But within a couple of years, I was
Mhm.
able to pay off and get to a point of the credit cards were gone. The credit card debt was
Mhm.
gone.
Mhm.
So I basically cut up all the credit cards except for one.
Right.
Um, and because there is times where you do need something to fall back on.
Right.
And of
Right.
course, that safety net is a good feeling. But I it wasn't easy. I don't even want anybody to think it was easy, but
No.
the feeling of success of knowing I paid off one card, okay, that's gone. I paid off another card. Um,
Mhm.
Once those are gone, then you can focus on more into savings. that
Mhm.
money and that money and the premise behind the debt snowball, if I paid one credit card off, I didn't take that money that I paid each month on that credit card and put it somewhere
Mhm.
else. It went to the next debt.
Right,
So if I
right.
was making a $50 payment each month on that first debt that's now gone, I
Hmm.
added it to the payment I was making on the second lowest
Right.
credit card. So that in itself helped those debts to go down faster. Um, but yeah, it's such a process, and it's a rewarding process because once you get through all the debt and you
Hmm.
start putting money into savings and you start seeing a savings account grow, it's really helpful. Of course, people out there, a lot of people, like you said, some people are feeling like they could never do that, and I felt that way too in the beginning. I definitely felt that I was I was never going to get out of debt, but I just kept plugging away at it, and consistency is key. Consistency is very important. So yeah, that was the beginning, and it's the most important thing, like I said, is paying that debt down as
That
much as
makes
you
sense.
can. Yeah.
That makes sense. And I can relate what you're saying to so many different things. Like, for example, if we're starting with somebody in the health industry or their health journey, maybe they're smoking, drinking alcohol, using Splenda and skipping meals. Of course, maybe stopping smoking would be the bigger goal, but we're never going to start there. Just like I'm not going to say pay off the $10,000 card. If you have a $600 card, you could pay off right away. You get a small win. If I can help somebody make a change, it's easier for them. They get a small win. Every time the brain, the psyche gets a small win, it feels like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. And so again, if you have 60 pounds to lose, but you lose two, okay, I can do this. I can do two more. So as a whole, exactly what you're saying, I do like his concept or his theory. So the goal is before you pay off anything is get to $1,000 put away for savings, right? Like I know
Right.
other financial gurus will say, like if you have debt, you're losing so much money in interest that if you pay down the debt, then you'll have that money for that little emergency fund. But it might take forever to get that down. So get your $1,000, and maybe now in this year, 2026, it might have to be two or $3,000. But let's say we just aim for $1,000, get to the side. And
Right.
I agree with you. When I made the choice to walk away from my corporate career and go out on my own as a fitness coach, a health coach, I said, okay, well, if I'm starting this from nothing, what do I got to do to have the money to survive? And what you said, stop the bleeding, find out where you're just losing unnecessary money. So, like, I would go get literally 3 small cups of coffee a day at Dunkin'. One, I was losing time waiting in the line. Secondly, that those cups of coffee were technically killing me. But if you made that coffee at home or at your office, it's like 1/8 the cost. We were losing almost $4,000 a year in coffee. It was absolutely insane. And then you might have these little memberships or these
Yes.
subscriptions coming out like $10, $20 a month that you don't know, that when you stop that, you can instantly take that money to that $1,000 fund. And you're like, where's all my money going? So I
Right.
appreciate that thought. So you built the $1,000 fund. Then you worked on what looked the most attainable for the first debt to pay off, and then kept working on that. Now I know that, so the theory that he has, or the method he has, if you know your average salary coming in, you're going to count for each part of that salary. So let's say, and you can correct me, I'm just kind of recapping. If I have, let's say, $4,000 a month coming in, I'm supposed to allocate that $4,000 to each different aspect of my life, right? Like food and living
Correct.
expenses,
Yes.
anything I might
Yes.
want to gift or donate, anything I'm putting to savings. Is that how it works?
Yes. Yes. You basically cover when you go through your budgeting, you start with your living expenses, your house,
Mhm.
your utility payments, and then your car payments, well, yeah, you do need a car. If you have a car, you
Yeah.
need to make sure you have gas in it and you have insurance. So you
Hmm.
cover all those expenses first, and then
Hmm.
you look at them at the items like for saving.
Hmm.
Saving in the beginning probably was down at the bottom,
Hmm.
unfortunately, after you got your emergency fund. So savings
Right.
kind of is down at the bottom, and you just leave it there. If you have money left, You can always have a miscellaneous fund
Mm-hmm.
because we all need to have some fun.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
if there's today it's probably going to be more, but back then I think maybe $50 was in my miscellaneous fund.
Right.
And for us that might be, you know, going to a movie or going
Mm-hmm.
out to dinner, that kind of a treat. So the
Mm-hmm.
most important thing is to look at your living expenses first, and then your debt is always second. Your living expenses has to come first, and then
Okay.
your debt is second. So then you allocate your money for your, so you start with your paycheck, and you start deducting how much you need for
Mm-hmm.
each line item. And
Yes.
my daughter teases me because I actually still have the spreadsheet that I Excel spreadsheet that I created back
Mm-hmm.
in 2009 to help me budget. And I mean,
Yes.
it's seen transitions throughout the years, but
Mm-hmm.
the categories are still there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the house payment, fortunately, thankfully, I'm so grateful, is gone because we were able to pay off our house. So the house payment
So amazing.
category is gone, but there's still upkeep on the house that's there. And
Mm-hmm.
so those categories are still basically there. The living expenses first. If I use a credit card, it's paid off each month.
Yes.
It's not something that, you know, that I need to dwell on any longer. So yes, categories are important. Spending every paycheck down to zero is important. And of course, one category that I think I've neglected is there is a category at the top for either tithing if you attend church, or charity giving if you so
Mm-hmm.
choose. So
Right.
that category is there, and that's an important category because giving is important and it makes you feel like you're contributing, and it's always a good feeling to be able to give. So that category is there, but yeah, that's what I have, you know, tried to teach my children to do. Whether they do it or not, I don't know because I don't
Yeah,
get
it's
into their
okay.
money
Yeah.
business. But
Right.
um,
Right.
you know, it's it's that budgeting that helps you, that weirdness of budgeting every month, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, my daughter still laughs at me when she sees my spreadsheet because it's every month I plug in the money, and
Yeah.
it goes where it goes. And that's you know, it's simplistic in nature, but at the same time it's the most challenging and difficult thing that you do because we value money so much, and it's just a tool. And when you break it down to, it's a tool that
Mm-hmm.
we live with. And people, I'm sure people who are out there maybe hearing this, that look at their money and they say, "Yeah, it's easy for you to say because I don't have enough for XXX."
Right. Right.
And I get that. I do totally get that because in
Mm-hmm.
the beginning I didn't have money for XXX either.
Yeah, me
Um,
too. Yeah. I
yeah,
agree.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
don't. But if you stick to the program, if you stick to your budget, um, it does. You will get there, and everybody will get there. Um, Kim's
Yeah.
always
Wherever.
telling me, "You will get there," right, Kim? You always tell me that.
Yeah,
You will get
yes. Yeah, and think about why you got there. I tell people wherever you put the most energy and attention is where you're going to get the greatest result. And so for me, I don't put a lot of energy and attention, but I'm pretty good at doing stuff in my head and always focusing on making sure I take care of my priorities first. But like how I would have somebody maybe journal their food or journal their weight or journal their symptoms to kind of see how their body is responding and learning where they may self-sabotage. That's the same thing you did, is you went in and you took an area of that what you perceived to be a weakness, not a strength for you, and
Nope.
instead of running from it any longer, you forced yourself to look at the stuff that was daunting, the things that aren't fun, that are kind of boring. And that's one reason you and I are doing this call, because I'm like, okay, this is an area that I know that I need to get better at, even though I do believe God always provides for us and it comes in and out. But I do believe the more you're a steward of your money and you understand how to make that energy work for you and for others of service, that it's going to free you even more. And like you said, when you can, I do believe that when you freely give, you always get back in return, like what you said. But I do believe it's intelligent to kind of have that already mapped out, like what I could safely give and feel
Right.
great about giving. And so I believe when you look at your area of opportunity or the thing that's most intimidating or where you feel the most ignorant, anything that you keep educating yourself on, even if it's only a few minutes a day, you'll start to become a subject matter expert in. Like I know you did not feel like a subject matter expert in 2009 with budgeting, but I
Not
want
at
to
all.
ask you, are you today completely debt free?
Yes.
And your house is paid off. You
Yes.
have a couple vehicles, right?
Yes.
You guys have dogs, you help others, you give.
Yes.
And so that's so in 2009 you were not, and now in
No.
2026 you are. And think of how freeing that feels. You were also able to leave a career a little sooner to start helping serve your family and to look
Right.
towards helping coach people in these areas of holistic health. How long would you guess that it took you? Let's say, let's not talk about the house. Let's just talk about the credit card. How
Right.
many years did it take you to become debt free in those kind of expenditures?
If I remember right, it was probably around 3 years.
Okay.
Because it was slow. 2 to 3 years max. I meant to go back and look that up, but I didn't get to
That's
it.
okay. That's
I talk about being weird and a nerd. I have my spreadsheets all the way back to 2009. So,
oh, that's so good.
but I didn't get
That's
a
good.
chance
Yeah.
to pull them up and look at them. But I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's 2 to 3 years. Not much more than that. And it was a couple of credit cards, and there was like furniture payment, and because we had in the process of in 2009 we had already moved up here and had built this house, so
Mhm.
there was a lot going on that had to be paid down before I could even touch paying the house.
Mhm.
But once the credit card was gone and I could conquer the car payments, that was the next step. Once conquering the car payments was gone,
Mhm.
but it didn't take. I mean, it took a couple of years to pay those both down, and
Mhm.
then the adding more to the house payment didn't start until, let's see, this is 26, so probably around 2016 is when I started conquering adding
Mhm.
to paying off the house. um,
Okay.
but yeah, guys, it's a slow process,
Yeah.
but
Well,
diligence.
yeah, let's talk about that though. Just like when I say to somebody, let's say it takes 1 to 3 years to reverse your chronic disease. If it's been building for 20 years, 1 to 3 years isn't slow. So if I think of you in 2009 to take away 20, 30 years of behaviors and to be completely paid off in a few years and then enjoy the next 4 decades, possibly debt free. So yes, it took time. It was tedious. It was again, it was like maybe boring, not so fun at first. Now you probably kind of enjoy it, maybe a little addicted to it because it's so exciting to see those
Exactly.
zeros.
Exactly.
But I know in the beginning it didn't feel that way. And I tell people, let's say you're always drinking soda and coffee now, and you start forcing yourself to drink water and figuring out how you can like it. At first, it's intentional. You have to think about it, force it. Now, like you'll walk everywhere with just a bottle of water and not think about it. You had to really be intentional, work on your areas of weakness, and stay focused no matter if it felt uncomfortable or like you couldn't attain it. Because something you've never achieved before feels daunting and like you may not be
Right.
able to do it. But as you
Right.
stick with it and keep going and give yourself grace and learn from it, you do, as you have seen, become an expert at it. And to me, if I can stay and remain completely debt free and feel that level of control and that level of freedom to do what I want to do with my time in life because I don't feel weighed down with interest rates and all that. That is so freeing.
Right.
And again, no matter what age you are and what time, and that's the thing, like I said, I have some individuals that are still in a really tough financial bind or having a tough time making ends meet that we're going to match right where they're at right now. And we have other individuals that have already worked themselves out of this, or that maybe they're working in a different bracket altogether. And that's why we'll have different podcasts for different things. But I believe right now, the majority of Americans need this message. The majority of Americans are struggling right now to keep up with their debt or are living paycheck to paycheck and don't see a way out. But as you've seen, just like if they don't see a way out with their health problem, as they slowly make one small change at a time,
Right.
that cumulative effect over 1 to 3 years helps reverse those small negative choices they were making that have a cumulative effect. So as they, for me personally, and you tell me if you agree with this, when I'm trying to be successful or am being successful financially, my top goal is to stop the bleeding. I want to stop wherever I'm losing money that is
Yes.
unnecessary, that is not giving me a return, or maybe that money is even destroying me, costing me more money. I
Right.
had to look at where I was invested. Like, let's say I was going to fast food or going out to eat regularly. So here I am paying double or triple the price of what it would take me to cook it at home.
Hmm.
Sometimes even waiting for it just as long or longer at the restaurant than what it would take me to cook at home. So I was losing time and money. So stopping the bleeding. Now, something that I like to do is teach people how to make the money that they want. So if they're feeling like, and again, I'm not a financial guru, I've just had to learn as an entrepreneur how to match what I need to pay my bills and to live a good life. So I
Absolutely.
like to teach people how to produce or get the money they want. And then, like you said, then start looking at where can we start putting this money effectively to pay down this debt. Now, the Dave Ramsey method, just to recap for everybody, you have these buckets or these line items where you're going to allocate your money proactively. Like if I were to have you write a daily journal of what your food should look like ahead of time so you're less likely to fail, I might have you say, okay, what should your day of food look like tomorrow? Write this out, and then tomorrow try to match that meal plan so you're less likely to stray. What Elaine's saying and what Dave Ramsey taught her is that you're going to create where you think you want to invest this money next month, your estimated $4,000, what it should be allocated to. So you're more likely to be successful, less likely to self-sabotage, less likely to be ambiguous with where that money is going to, so that you can meet your goals you want. Like some people want to lose weight, but they don't pre-plan how are they going to act in each day? What behavioral choices are they going to make to actually meet that weight loss plan? And are they going to track to see what harms their body and helps their body so that they actually learn why that hasn't changed yet or what is harming their body? That's all you're saying to do is proactively see where you're going to put that money so you're less likely to hold yourself back and self-sabotage. And
Right.
you're more likely to identify where you've been missing the boat. And you're giving yourself accountability that is critical for meeting any goal, whether it's graduating high school, graduating college, being in a marriage, or managing money. You have to have accountability if you want the best possible outcome. You can't just do what you want when you want.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And people who are saying, well, where am I going to get, I need extra money. I mean, my paycheck isn't making it.
Mm-hmm.
Look around your house, look around what you own that you haven't used this in a year or 2 years. Why are you hanging on to it? Is it something that you can sell? There's so many
Mm-hmm.
platforms to sell items, yard sales.
Mm-hmm.
Those are tremendously helpful in getting extra money. And we all like hanging on to stuff, but stuff doesn't pay down our debt. So, yeah, I remember
100%.
doing a couple yard sales and selling some things, and that helped. That helped have extra groceries that I didn't think I was going to have. And so there's ways that you can, like you said, make extra
Mm-hmm.
money. What side hustles can you do?
Mm-hmm.
There's side hustles that people look at. Is there something that are you a baker? Do is there
Mm-hmm.
things that you like to do that someone else would enjoy the fruit of your labor? So those areas are open to people as well. But
Yes.
yeah, so there's just so much, so much freedom in knowing that you somewhere down the road will be debt free and sticking to it. And like you said, baby steps. We all have to take baby steps, whether it's in our food and our nutrition and our health, or in our money health. Those baby steps are key, and they add up to bigger steps.
Yeah, we have to see, like for me, exactly what you said. Because when I started learning that there were other answers to my own healing and there's other mentors I saw that I wanted to learn from, I didn't have the money, or at least my perception was I didn't have the money to pay them. But I'm like, wait a minute, if I cut back these coffees out and I had a bunch of broken gold around my house, old gold for me when I was a kid. I'm like, oh, I can sell this gold. I
Yeah.
sold
Yeah.
that gold and I did exactly what you said. So I got rid of things I did not need. I got rid of spending that was destroying me and costing me more money than helping me. Like I'll have some individuals, and no offense, but they'll be frustrated if they're not meeting their health goal. And I'll ask them, I want you to look at how much you invested this year in alcohol and how much you invested in learning about your health. If more money is going to things that destroy you than what's helping you, then yes, you're probably not going to succeed at feeling well. And that's just, it's a tough message sometimes and a tough
It
truth for
is.
us to accept. But our behaviors and our choices have to match what we're saying we want. And if we're not stopping the bleeding or we're not getting rid of stuff that is not helping us and finding a way to create the better life long term, making those tough choices, it is hard to technically succeed. So I agree. I had to set boundaries on where I was spending my time, money, and energy, and then start making tough choices and being willing to part with things that were not really serving me on a higher level. So that way I could invest in the things that would give me a greater return, and again, it might feel hard in the moment, but gosh, is it so worth it later on. Like to talk to you now, and I know in 2009, you never envisioned that you'd be having a conversation
No,
with me about
no.
guiding someone on how to break free. Isn't that such a crazy, a huge change?
It is. It is. It really is. And by nature, I'm a teacher, so I have tried to help people along the way, and that as well is a good feeling. So yeah, no, I never thought that I would be in the position that, um, I hear of someone who has a need, and Dave Ramsey has a saying: live like no one else today,
Mm-hmm.
so you can live like no one else tomorrow. And I don't know if those are his exact words, but that's the gist of it. And
Yeah.
I used to hear that. I used to hear him say that. And I'm like thinking, how am I going to live like no one else tomorrow? But now I understand
Mm-hmm.
when you don't have debt and you have this money that you can bless someone else with. It's truly an amazing feeling. Truly.
No, it is. And to me, that's what real freedom is. We can have the freedom
Yes.
to spend and do what we want, but if it still makes us feel trapped, is that really freedom? Or if we have nothing saved based on our hard work, is that really freedom because you still feel trapped? So
Right.
again, it's setting boundaries. Now, what I love about today that's different than when you first started, a lot of people, are against AI. And again, it can be the death of us, but it can
Right.
also be a blessing. Once you and I talked a little bit, I did go to ChatGPT and I said, can you build me a spreadsheet with Dave Ramsey's method on how to
Wow.
do this? Because again, I'm in a good spot, but I want to be a better steward of my money so that I can give more, do more, and
Absolutely.
and be a good leader for my children too. So I said, build me the spreadsheet, and it was amazing. It built it right away. And so you could put it in and it's ready to go. But you had to build that yourself years ago, I'm sure.
Myself.
Um,
Yep.
and
Yep.
it's like in 5 minutes. And so if there's an area I'm weak at, what I'll do is I'll use AI to give me like an outline to make it feel like I can at least get a little bit of the information to feel like it's possible. Now, to add to what you're saying, there again are different methods, like what Elaine was saying. When we went on our Egyptian tour, we were all listening to this audible book. I think it's called Millionaire Mind.
Oh,
And there's some funny things, but it was more about one, keeping your mindset on success, not having a mindset of scarcity or failure, because that is really what holds back a lot of people in multiple areas of their life, assuming failure or assuming they can't change. Well, this book is like, I have a millionaire mind, but you're more brainwashing yourself into knowing that you can think differently about money. You can respect money differently, and you can also make sure you respect your own energy on how you earn and save that money. And I think his method, he has like 6 jars that you put your money in. You could do a certain percentage to your livelihood, a certain percentage to giving, your slush fund, like you're saying. And so they're both saying essentially the same thing, but from different ways. So for those listening, you can look at these different methods, but I'm telling you, you have such a blessing in today's world. If you go into AI and you say, can you give me a spreadsheet based on the 6 jars and the millionaire mind method, and can you give it to me on Dave Ramsey, or can you combine the two so that whatever my brain works good with I can work towards? It's just, again, continually redirecting you away from your self-sabotage.
Right.
And it's helping you become an expert slowly without feeling like I've got to be perfect today or be perfect tomorrow, because perfection stalls progress. And
Right.
it's that internal pressure of thinking that we're just going to fail again or we're not enough that really is what's creating the lack of success, not that you don't have enough money or you can, it's just that negative self-talk and that doubt is blocking your creativity and blocking your ability to create and to stay focused on the goal, because the goal feels tough, tedious, or like you're weak to it. But anything you want to become skilled in, you just have to dedicate a little bit of time, even when it feels uncomfortable.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, lucky you that you have the AI to do that. Yeah, you're right. I did mine all from scratch and um made just but that
Yeah.
that was the time period and we didn't know any better. We didn't know any different
Yeah.
rather.
No, and I did that too then too, but just on different topics. Yeah.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right, right. So, however you get to that point of budgeting and
Hmm.
it's comfortable for you, you will succeed at it. If it's not comfortable for you, then you won't. So,
Right.
do what works for you as long as you budget all the way down to zero and you know where your money's going, and that's important. One thing that he also did that I didn't mention was he suggested that you take um, like certain items that you can pay cash for, like food. You have,
Hmm.
let's say you have, which I'm sure is not enough each month, but you have
Right.
$500 to spend on food. You
Right.
go to the bank, you get $500 in cash and you put
Mm.
that in your wallet.
That's
And
good.
you only earmark it for food, you don't spend it on anything else but food.
That's good.
Then when that's gone, that's it. You might be down to your last $20 and you still have a week left, but you'll find creative ways to, it forces you to find creative ways to have enough food at the end of the month. Um, and so I've gone back to the cash method.
That's
And
awesome.
I mean, I go and I get cash and I have cash in my wallet, and it's actually a much better feeling to use cash than it is a credit card because it hurts to give the cash away.
Yeah,
But to put it
true.
on a credit card, oh,
Hmm.
it's plastic. That doesn't hurt. You don't see the cash flowing as much as if
Hmm.
you have cash in your wallet and it's leaving
Yeah.
your wallet. I'm like, maybe I really don't need to buy that extra whatever, and we can do without that. I'd rather spend it on what I truly need for my nutrition versus that junk food item or whatever. So
Yeah, and I love that theory and concept and what you're doing, because it's true. Because if you're just using your debit or credit card, it's like swipe, 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 and you don't realize you're going way over that 500 budget, especially if that day you're having a craving, you just spend what you want to spend, or you're tired and we're just going to go out to eat versus making the same meal at home for $20 versus $70 in today's world.
right, right,
But the sad part, as you know, we don't know how much longer we're going to have cash. Some
yep,
places aren't even accepting it anymore, but I'd still love that we do that as long as we can while we have the opportunity to.
exactly,
Yeah. And just to clarify, and again, we know that we can't share everything in this podcast. Hopefully,
right.
just to inspire you, I'll be putting some links of support below. And then also, Elaine, those who don't know, she did leave the banking industry and she does serve her family right now, but she has been trained in all of my courses. And at some point, she's going to be helping the active aging with their best holistic health to live
Yes,
their best life, because she really, lives a certain way because of something she went through with her childhood, with her mother's health. She really does what she can to take ownership to prevent chronic disease. And she's doing absolutely amazing with that. But I have a feeling that she might be my go-to person who I'm going to refer clients to that feel overwhelmed with money, and that she might be able to help walk their hand through it. And I know
absolutely,
she'd be willing to do that. And I believe, again, that's part of holistic health because we're looking at the whole person.
right.
But when she says, the one thing I wanted to clarify, because I don't know if we covered it enough, but again, it will be in show notes too, and you can look at the methods and she can walk you through. But when she says drill it down to zero, basically, again, if I didn't repeat this well earlier, if you know you have your $4,000 coming each month and you have your line items, you need to make sure at the beginning of the month you've spent all those dollars how you plan to. And then that month you try to follow that plan so where there's nothing left, but it doesn't mean you're spending all your $4,000 on something.
Right.
Part of that money is like maybe 500 is in savings or 500 is in giving, but it's all down to zero. And where that is so good with how I try to teach too is, and what it goes in line with everything, I might say to somebody, you have 2,500 calories to spend and you need to spend them all for energy for your health, just like someone doing Weight Watchers points. They might need all 32 points. And if you try to save your calories for the next day, it doesn't work that way. I need you to look at calories like money, that you need to invest them each day into units of energy that are going to feed your body. And if you have like 600 calories left over and you don't know what you're doing with them, either you're going to utilize them for things that aren't good for you, or you're not going to eat and you're not going to have enough energy to achieve your goals. And it really is a lot like the energy of money. We're just looking at it differently. So does that resonate, or does that align with what you're teaching, Elaine, with going down to zero?
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. You spend it on paper. You're not necessarily,
Yeah.
spend it in reality, like you said. Some goes to savings, some goes to charity, gifting, tithing. So it's not necessarily spent, but it is spent on paper. So you
Yes,
know
yeah.
where
You don't say I'm getting rid of my $4,000.
no, no.
It just means that you know where it's going, so that you're
Right.
a steward of your money and that you're able to invest the money into things you truly want to achieve or who you truly want to give to. And Elaine has her beautiful, I think Kimber's an Australian Shepherd, right?
Yes, Kimber's an
Yeah,
Australian Shepherd.
Kimber won't leave her side, so she's
Nope.
down by the floor. And so if we might hear a little background noise here and there, but that's just because Kimber is beautiful. I wish you guys could see her. But no, Elaine, I appreciate you sharing your insight. If you were to share anything else, and I know this can be rough because it feels like an off guard interview question, is there anywhere else where, or anything that you'd want to share with the public in relationship to being a steward of your money and how it's lifted a weight off of you spiritually?
Um, basically, I think I would just share that it is hard in the beginning. It is very hard in the beginning, and it feels like you're at the wrong end of the tunnel, but there is the light at the end of the tunnel. There really really is. I didn't think I'd see it, but I did see it, and the light has grown really big now, so that I am able to give when I feel like there's a need to be given to. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a goal of mine, and I didn't realize in the beginning that it was a goal, but it grew and grew and grew. That goal grew as I was able to get out of debt and see that budget line for sharing my blessed budget and
Mm-hmm.
that's like the best feeling in the world to know um, that I can live like no one else today because I lived like no one else starting in 2009.
I love that. And what I love even the most is giving is so amazing. But what is even more amazing is you learned how to put your own oxygen mask on first to save yourself and secure yourself, and then to also save and secure
Yes,
others. I
yes,
sometimes have had the problem where I love to give and I'm always taken care of, and God has always blessed me, but I may give to the extent that I don't keep myself safe. And there's a pro and a con to that. And there could be one emergency away of not taking care of yourself. And
right,
so, what I love about what you did with that is that you made sure you and your immediate family were secure, and now you're securing others. And that is really just true freedom.
exactly, absolutely.
Yeah, well, thank you, Elaine, for all of your time. Anybody that's interested in getting more support through this process to know that you can do it, reach out to me. Elaine would be more than happy to help. I could even share her contact information with you. I believe this is the way we really level up. We address our areas of weakness. We don't get scared by them. We walk through the storm. We learn how to become an expert in that area. And then we go on to the next one, because healing is definitely a journey. And there's
Yes,
all these aspects: financial, spiritual, mental, nutritional. There's all these aspects, but we can do it. And why not try to become our best selves during our time here on earth, right?
exactly, absolutely.
Thank you, Lane, so much for sharing your truth and being vulnerable with us. I know we're going to help somebody, and I hope you have a beautiful day.
Ah, you as well. Thank you.